In this screencast, I am going to talk about the difference between the short-run ATC, or the short-run average total cost curve, and the long-run ATC. First off, let's remind ourselves about the definition of the short run. And when we're talking about the short run, you can only change one variable input. So the firm has the chance to either change the amount of labor that they're using, or they could change the amount of capital, but they can't change both. We've talked about how you have the intersection of the marginal cost curve and the average total cost curve, and that gives you that productive efficiency where you're producing goods as cheaply as possible. When we're talking about the short run, you're talking about the marginal cost curve because you're dealing with looking at the diminishing returns. But when we talk about the long run, we're talking about the ability to change multiple variable inputs. And so when you're looking here at this long run ATC, sometimes on a graph you'll have the LR in front of the ATC. That would be one of the differences you might see on a graph. But otherwise, what you have here is you still have the U-shaped of the ATC curve. The difference is that we're not talking anymore about diminishing returns. When we talk about long run analysis, what we're looking at here is that in the short run, you have these ATC curves, and that's what each one of these small curves up here represent, is a short run ATC. And what a firm will do is that as they are operating along this short run ATC, as soon as they hit that productive efficiency or minimum ATC, that's then when they need to realize it's not going to get any better than this with regard to their costs. But maybe their business is so good and business is booming and they need to continue on. And so the best option for them is to open up a new plant. And so in the long run, that's what they'll do. And then they will operate along this new short run ATC curve. And they'll keep doing this and expanding, or maybe they'll open up, they'll hire more labor and capital at the same time, but they'll make changes in order for them to be able to come along with these new plants and these new short-run ATC curves. And they keep moving along, and they have what is called economies of scale. In the long run, this is where your ATC curve is decreasing as output is increasing. Eventually, you get to the point where you reach minimum ATC for the long run. We don't really refer to it as productive efficiency. Instead, it's referred to as this minimum efficient scale. And what it means is that in the long run, this is as low of a cost as this firm can possibly get. And so a firm should make its decisions along this minimum efficiency scale, or at this constant returns to scale, where as I'm producing more, my ATC is not rising. Because after the constant returns to scale part, what you then have is what is termed as diseconomies of scale. And this is where, as output is increasing, your per unit costs in the long run are rising up. And again, the firm is still at minimum ATC in the short run. They're still changing and opening up a new plant and making changes. But at this point, they're just too big and they're not making the right decisions. When this should happen is when consistently this firm will be having the output and the consumer demand necessary in order for people to buy that output. When you should not open up a new plant and make this long run adjustment would be when, say, 1 year you're doing really well and you have an increase in the amount that you're selling. Well, if it's something that's not going to consistently happen, then it wouldn't make sense for you to get more capital, have more laborers, open new plants, and make all of these long run decisions. But otherwise, as long as output is moving along this way, this is what you should do.